All right, so I just had to play that simply because it gets me all pumped up. And look at that. I already have like some kind of a glitch. All right, hold on. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Hold on, I'll bounce over to the comments. All right, so totally informal. Look, I wasn't really planning on doing this. I just had to go refill my water there. Thank you all for bouncing over to watch the live. I know some of you had some questions. Originally, I was going to do that first video live and ended up not doing it simply because my older dog, some of you know as Sonar Dog, she's still okay, but she is getting a little bit older and potentially some dementia. So she just walks the hall. She'll just start barking out of nowhere. So hopefully she won't make an appearance, but if she does, maybe you guys can meet her. But she's blind. If you don't know, she's blind. She's deaf. When we rescued her, she was badly abused. The vet thinks that potentially she's kind of feeling the repercussions of that. So let me see. Audio is bad for me. Is anybody else experiencing bad audio before I before I do this? And again, this is informal. These behind the scenes videos are just to hang out. I've got about 25 or so minutes, and then I'm going to have to go pick up my kids from daycare. So audio is echoing. Good here. Good. Fine for me. Okay, so I'm just going to assume that the audio is okay. You do not want me to do that, lady blah blah. Love your name. You do not want me to sing whatsoever. So appreciate the recommendation there, but I'm not going to do it. Okay, so let's get to the questions. So the way that this works, I'm not going to open up the phone lines simply because the phone lines take a little bit of time. And I don't want to just do one or two questions. I want to do as much as I can. All of you who supported the channel through Super Chats before, thank you so much. Nothing is required on this channel. Obviously, I can see Super Chats a little bit better. And yes, I will absolutely kind of go to those just simply because those are supporting the channel. 100%, if you didn't see my text message on the last channel, goes right back into this channel and the website. I don't cut myself a paycheck. I don't buy myself anything. It literally just goes right back into the content. There was one thing that I saw in the beginning. Here it is. So what I'm going to try and do is make sure I don't miss anything here. And get as many questions as I can. Todd Limeburner. Todd, I recognize you from Twitter, so thanks for coming in here. When did you first learn about Travis Taylor being lead scientist on the UAPTF? Did it come as a surprise? Well, just a quick brush up for those who don't know. Travis Taylor, the guy you see on Skinwalker Ranch, you've seen on television. I actually have a connection going back quite a few years to him in television when I was producing. He and I were working at the same production company. He was almost on one of my shows. It's just the scheduling didn't work out. So I've known of him for a long time. I'm not going to lie. I did not know that he was the lead scientist, but did I have a inkling that he may have been on the list of UAP task force advisory panel members? I wasn't sure or definitive, but did his name come up in my head? I'd be lying if I said it did not. But I also had a long list of people who I think might be on that list. If you don't know what I'm referring to, I received a batch of documents from the National Reconnaissance Office, and these came in probably about a few months ago. And it revealed that the task force, the UAP task force, had an advisory panel. Now, even though you kind of assume certain things when you research these topics, that's a safe assumption that they would have a research panel, but it was never confirmed, or an advisory panel, I should say. It was never confirmed. Once it went into black and white, I immediately started filing FOIA requests to see who was on this panel. So again, whether or not his name will come up, I'm not sure. Will it be labeled as chief scientist? I'm not sure, but I'm still digging into that. But a surprise, yeah, I'm not going to lie and pretend that I knew. So forgive me here. I'm just going to go through the comments as fast as I can. And hopefully I don't miss anything. If I miss something, please feel free to repost it. Sorry, I'm going back to the beginning, so I'm glad to see that you guys are talking a lot here. Looks like over 120 of you migrated over here to watch this live show, so thanks for being here. Feel free to ask those questions. I'm going down the list. Todd again, John, what do you think of the connection of this group? Stratton, Putoff, Elizondo, Taylor, etc., all connected at some point over decades and have provided no evidence. Any thoughts on their connections? Look, there is no secret that some of these groups are very tight niched. They're the same names that have come up so many times over the years, and I don't have a real reason why. Yes, I wish that there were more pieces of evidence that would come forward, that would be presented over the decades, that some of these names keep popping up, like Hal Puthoff and, Taylor, we see on television a lot. That's another very interesting dynamic to this. I'm not sure if I'll get into right now, but the fact that he was working in an effort like that with highly classified conversations. I mean, clearly the UAP task force has highly classified angles to it, alien or not. There's no hiding from the fact that they are classifying everything. So the fact that he was doing that in conjunction with the Skinwalker Ranch stuff is a little bizarre to me. I mean, it really is. It's not meant to be an insult or be accusatory, but rather when you're working as a government I assume paid personnel in a field of research, but then doubling on a History Channel show and kind of on the forefront of that research, but they don't know, meaning Skinwalker Ranch, Brandon Fugel said that he didn't know until days before it was announced. If all that is true, then that's bizarre. I mean, I would think that a lot of questions should be asked. I saw the video that Dragon, I don't watch the show, I hate to admit that, sorry guys, but Dragon, I believe, was the one that posed a very genuine question that he was still essentially processing it. They did a behind the scenes video. I hope they release it to the public. I was able to see it behind the scenes in the Skinwalker Ranch like members portal. And so that's how I saw it. And it was just a very genuine question. So I wish there was more evidence, but I think that there's a lot of unanswered questions here with the same names coming up over and over and over. And yet we still have this secrecy. Those that are preaching transparency are involved in the secrecy. And that I never understood. Travis Taylor also made a very interesting announcement in this video that I just referred to, that he played a role in the security classification guide that I got released late last year that had never been out before, and it showed the immense secrecy behind UAP. That was something that, for me, shows that whomever touched that does not have transparency on the forefront of their mind. And Scott Bray, who was the one that testified in front of Congress, he was the one that approved it. Now we know Travis Taylor played a role in it by his own admission, and I believe the true author would likely be like a Jay Stratton or someone to that effect. It was redacted, so we don't really know the true author of it. But rather, we know Bray approved it, Stratton likely wrote it, or somebody in Stratton's position, and now we know Travis Taylor played a role in it. Comment below, guys, if you're watching this and curious and know what I'm talking about with that classification guide. Comment below if you think, or comment in the channel if you're watching live, if you think that the people that played a role in that are interested in telling you the truth, and them interested in transparency. And I don't think they would be. And that, again, is not an insult, but rather the reality of the secrecy behind all of this. So His admission to that was a surprise to me. Absolutely. All right, going through. Oh my goodness, it's jumping around. Sometimes I hate these systems. Mr. Zahed, thanks for your question. Hey, John, just want to know that is it possible to FOIA or get details of the recent Congress hearing on UAP closed setting part? So, yes and no. Congressional records are not subject to FOIA, so you can't FOIA Nancy Pelosi's emails or something to that effect. But what you have to do with the FOIA is you have to essentially figure out backdoor ways to find what you're looking for. Now, we know that a lot of these classified settings are headed by the Office of Naval Intelligence within the U.S. Navy, potentially the Director of National Intelligence, potentially both. And through other FOIA releases, I've tracked down who some of those names and offices are. So instead of FOIAing Congress, which is again a common question I get asked, you go to the agency conducting that briefing, and you go after specifically material utilized in that briefing. That would include a PowerPoint presentation, any handouts, any video files that were shown, any photographs that were shown, image files, text documents, you just name it all, and you start digging in those specific dates and sessions. So every time that I see a news article that so-and-so was briefed but nothing was revealed, you better believe that I filed a case that day looking for, again, that military side, because they are subject to FOIA. And what did they tell that senator or that congressman, or what did they show? A very one of the best examples that I can give you through digging on these little pieces of the puzzle is a reveal in a NASA release that Jay Stratton, who then I got in black and white, that also was the first time, even though we assumed it, the first time in writing he was the director of the task force. They wanted to brief Director Bill Nelson. And at the time, it just kind of reading between the lines, it looked like the scheduling didn't match up between Bill Nelson and the UAP task force to be properly briefed in the classified setting. So they made a video of the classified briefing for Bill Nelson to watch at essentially his leisure in a secure environment. Well, you better believe that I filed the case for that specific video as well. So yeah, you find different ways to request information and look for those little nuggets of information, so that way you can start extracting records. I also published a highly redacted but PowerPoint presentation briefing on the UAP task force, and that also was obtained through FOIA and something you can get on the Black Vault. So remind me if I don't post it, just tweet at me or send me an email about that, and you can see kind of the secrecy involved in the UAP stuff, especially when it comes to the classified briefings. But you better believe I still go after it nonetheless, and you do get those little nuggets. Dolan's Bar, always a pleasure to see you in here, and thank you obviously for your support. Thoughts, Congress calling them drones doesn't discount the fact that they could be drones of others. I mean, absolutely. For me, that may be a little bit of a stretch. And I do believe, and this is such an unfortunate thing for the word drone to then just become this target of hatred. Like if you say, look, I think that this is drone technology, human made, all of a sudden you're just like this swamp gas purveyor of today. And that shouldn't be the way that it is, because drones absolutely play a role in the UAP conversation, period, full stop. That's it. They just will. And the reason I say that is because countries out there, including ourselves, are making unmanned aerial vehicles in a way that will be the next generation, or the current generation, if you want to argue that, of reconnaissance, that we are going to send these drones out, some of which will have great capability, and they will be that what stealth technology was 30 plus years ago, is that next generation secret. And I believe that because the technology is getting smaller, it is getting more highly capable of doing extraordinary things, and that will obviously be a part of this conversation. So does that mean that all of the UAP phenomena, all of these UAP phenomena are attributed to drones? No. But it's definitely part of the conversation. Back to your comment, Dolan's Bar, are they utilizing that semantics and playing off of it? I would say probably not. I think they're utilizing this conversation for counterintelligence reasons. And any frequent viewers of this channel, and I know you are because you're a great supporter of it, you've probably heard me talk about that counterintelligence value. And I think that they are going to utilize words like drones and drone technology and UFOs and the word unidentified to muddy the waters, to cover it all up. You cover up the advanced technology that we're experimenting with, or covering up the advanced technology that is exploiting our weaknesses. You cover all that up. You also cover up the real aspects of these phenomena that we just can't explain. And so when you start throwing all that mud into the water and you have a mess to deal with, the counterintelligence value to that confuses not only the general public, which we know that they've wanted to do for decades, but also world powers, world leaders, our friends and foes alike. And so that's why I talk about the counterintelligence value and the way that this conversation is definitely, in my opinion, showing that with solid colors. Hey, John, resonate. Hey, John, what are in these emails that is significant? Could this be misinformation, misdirection? If you're talking about the DoDIG emails, you may have missed the last video, so just check the channel. I won't go over it all again just for time purposes, Resonate, but I do go over what I feel is important. Again, nothing earth-shattering or, the breaking news that you have to stop everything you're doing, but rather it does reveal pieces of the puzzle. Is it misinformation or misdirection? I always struggle with those types of theories because you have to keep in mind the amount of work that they need to do to create these types of narratives. So when you don't have something that is so extraordinary, I don't think that they're really doing misinformation with that, but rather it may show glimpses that other people may be involved in misinformation. Again, that's up to your interpretation, and I'm speaking generally. I'm not making an accusation there, but these emails are always enlightening when it comes to that kind of stuff. If you could have witnessed one UAP event in history, what would it be? Man, that's a good question. I'm not sure if I can give you a big one or a main one, but if I had to, it would probably be the 1976 Iran incident, simply because I'm emotionally attached to that. That's what got me into this field. Not to do a shameless plug, but I go into, in that book, all about how I didn't discover that document, but how I felt when I first read it when I was 15 years old. And that is what sparked me to learn the FOIA and to learn how to use it and to see what else I could get. So if I really had to round it down to one, that would probably be it, but that's for emotional reasons. I would love to see, what Lonnie Zamora saw in Socorro. That would have been fun. I know there's a lot of theories about what he could or could not have seen, but it just would have been fun to be a fly on the wall and to see some of those bigger cases that may have a perfectly logical explanation, but regardless, just to see them would be awesome. San Diego flares, I know that's a big one topic right now. I stayed away from it just because a lot of these types of stories always generally do turn out to be flares. A friend of mine, a friend of this channel, and a name you'll likely recognize, Alejandro Rojas, as of the recording of this video. Anyway, I did see a tweet thread from him. He lives down there and actually saw the lights and sides that they're flares. So, he's an eyewitness and he's somebody who obviously understands this field and understands cases and understands what you need to do to try and identify something. And it seems like he not only saw it, but feels that they're flares. So I don't really have a feeling either way. Of course, I would lean towards an eyewitness, someone like Alejandro, who's been around the UFO field for a long time. If he is saying that, then it's something we should likely pay attention to. I know that I've missed a couple here, so holy moly. I did miss some. There was here it is. Black Dread Scotland. Thank you so much for the support on of the channel. Hey John, have you ever read Mirage Men by Mark Pilkington? If so, what do you think of the book? If not, you can disregard the question. I don't want to disregard it other than I can't answer it. I did not read it. I've heard a lot about it, know some of the information within it, documentary as well. I just wouldn't be able to speak with authority on it. So that said, I'm not wanting to dodge your question. I just have not read it, but it would be something by what I do know about it, something that I definitely want to look into. I want to jump down here to my buddy Jazz Shaw. Jazz, thank you so much for your amazing support of this channel over the last months and years. Jazz, just want to pitch in again for the work John does. He's helped me with some FOIAs I've been doing on Skinwalker, but now I worry that Travis has wasted some of my time. Well, first off, Jazz, I am always happy to help you. So I'm hoping sometimes when I feel like I don't help you, it's still worthwhile when we have our conversations, because I know FOIA can sometimes get very convoluted and confusing. But that being said, I'm very interested in the latter part of that Travis has wasted some of your time. So maybe we can chat. I'm really interested in that story. So thank you for the support, but also thank you for your input. I am going to have to round third here in the next couple of minutes because I got to go get my son. But because I've had to jump around. I know I've probably missed questions. Cryptic Chameleon, what would you consider your greatest obstacle or failure as a researcher, and how has that helped to inspire you to move forward? How did it help you to get better? That's a great question. As a researcher, you fail all the time, myself included, all the time. And you should fail. You should create theories. You should push for evidence and fail at finding it. And the reason why I say that is because you always need to challenge yourself. And for me, although off the top of my head, because it's a great question, I can't think of one major failure per se. But that is in no way to say, oh, I just don't fail. I can't tell you anything, because I'm sure there's people like that out there. No, I fail on a daily basis. And I love that aspect of this field, because if you do it right and you challenge yourself, you change your mind. And I find that as a failure in the sense that you think you know something and you go, you know what, I've got the evidence, I've got this, I've got that. I think I've got this. And then more evidence comes your way and you go, I didn't quite have it, And although that's not probably a failure in the way that you're saying it, or meaning it, that's what I mean by failures, is that you just keep pushing. You never fall into one explanation, because generally you're probably wrong. And I think that as many people out there that have these explanations and they want to tell everybody they know the answers to everything and so on and so forth, they generally don't. And I think that the biggest failure anybody can make is to fully 100% believe someone else and or themselves, because we should always learn, always find information and move forward. And that makes me, I think, a better researcher when I figure out that I thought I had something right and didn't. And I think that is true for the field itself, that we think we know certain things, but we don't. And that makes us better. So I'm not sure if that really answered your question the way you meant it, but those are the failures I see as a researcher, but good failures, that you have to always challenge your beliefs and always challenge your own bias. Because as much as all of us, you, me, anybody says, look, I'm totally unbiased. Of course, we have those personal biases. It's one of those reasons why I despise the 100% sole reliance on anonymous sources to tell a story, because then all of a sudden your personal bias is supported by absolutely nothing that you can share with somebody else. And that's why I don't like that. So that's not challenging to anybody. That's just confirmation. And that's, for me, not what this field is about. When you take and accept your bias that you have, but then you bring forward information and it's provable evidence to go along with it, then you start chiseling away at that bias that even though we all have it, you start minimizing it. And you can put that information out there for others to verify and validate for themselves. And even though I have anonymous sources, if you want to say it that way, or utilize them or act on the information, I don't come to you and make a video and say, this is the way it is. I can't tell you why. I can't tell you who told me. This is the way it is. No, you've got to support that. So always challenge yourself and don't be afraid to be wrong. And even though, again, I define that sometimes as failures per se, it makes us all better if we challenge ourselves. So hopefully that answered something for you. Maybe one more here, and then I'm going to have to go. Man, there's a lot of great ones here. I'm just trying to... It's gone beyond the absurd with misinformation on misinformation. Yeah, and that's pretty much the definition of counterintelligence. And I don't say that with too much snark, but rather that's why we have to always kind of question the information that comes about. You can hear one of my dogs in the back. John, what about the Navy accidental leak yesterday? I'm glad you asked this, Leaf, and that might be a good way to close this. So I was tagged considerably yesterday quite a few times for this leak. Now, for those who don't know, these files didn't appear yesterday. I saw them last Thursday, I believe it was. They had 2 FOIA releases and 2 additional files of the same thing, but the redactions were not applied. And let me see if you can't really see him back. Oh, there he is. Can you see him? He's making an appearance. That is not Sonar Dog. That is my 1.5, 2-year-old puppy. So sorry about that. That's the joys of live. So the going back to the point, there were those 2 releases, 2 files, but then 2 additional ones with redactions not applied. Thankfully for them, are you going to come say hi? So thankfully for them, we have a visitor here. Let me see if I can you come here? You're gonna come say hi? So this is the joys of live because this is my boy. Come here. Can you come here? There you go. There you go. He's a big boy. So yes. Can you not speak into the? Okay. So now I'm embarrassed because okay. All right. So we'll just finish the show with you on my lap. Yes, he is incredibly large. So I'm so sorry that he kind of busted through the door. Excuse you. Apologies. So what they did was not redact personal identifying information. Luckily for them, again, it was not classified. And I saw it last Thursday. It actually plays into why I didn't point it out, just because I'm not into taking personal information like that, simply because I know it was a mistake. And in FOIA, it happens. But sadly, when it finally kind of passed around, I think Reddit was the first kind of more public post. Sorry. Okay, you done? Okay, you done? I'm sorry. Now I lost my train of thought. Reddit created more of a story behind this, that it was this big reveal, and the documents themselves were not new. They had already been written about by The Drive a week or 2 ago, and I had posted it on Reddit. So the documents themselves weren't new. There were some new names. Are they helpful? Sure. I just hate utilizing mistakes like that. The names weren't supposed to be out, but it was completely embellished. And the story now has grown to it being this big reveal of secret UFO cases. I'm now seeing a rumor that is kind of gaining steam that the 23-minute video that has long been rumored about was secretly planted on the web server and somebody got it on Reddit. All of that is not true. Again, I downloaded the documents last week. I went through them with a fine-tooth comb. I won't lie. There was nothing hidden in there. I invite anybody that has the files. I mean, look through. But the story is growing. And so it was not the leak that everybody thinks. They were documents that were already released before. The problem was that some of the redactions weren't applied. People felt that that was the leak. And then the photographs, the slides, the encounters between what were labeled as UAS, or people equated that to UAP encounters that were already written about and already in the public domain. They were talking about them as like they were new and that the Navy dropped all this stuff. So I'm sorry, my brain got a little sidetracked with my puppy there coming in. But that said, I'm hoping that gives you a little bit more detail about that because it was over embellished. Shocker here in the UFO field, but it's absolutely embellished. So that said, sorry for the appearance of my dog, but I see some of the comments, so hopefully you guys liked the black and white doggo vault. Yeah, that's right. So here's a good way to end. And that said, thanks for joining me on the live stream. I got to go pick up my kids. So I always love these informal videos, and the fact that over 220 people are watching, and I didn't even advertise this really other than a last second post, is awesome. Thank you guys for that support. I will absolutely do these more often as I can. And your support of this channel by helping spread the word is a huge, huge, huge help. So thank you guys. Have a wonderful evening. I'll make sure I'll give the big dogs big hugs, and you guys have a great night. We'll see you next time.